Harry Kone, K-O-N-E, just think of ice cream with a K. I served with the Marine Corps, and I served from 1942 to 1945. I guess the most thing to talk about Guadalcanal would be it rains 3 times a day, so you're wet all the time. And then it's certainly hot during the mornings and the afternoons, and it gets a little cooler in the evening. And then the mosquitoes are very friendly, because when they bite us, they always leave a little package, and that package is malaria. So we're even. They get something and we get something. And then I guess the heat and the jungle. If you are in the jungle by yourself, maybe for 15 or 20 minutes without a compass, you can get lost. It's that thick. And it's so wet and damp, and half the time you're in mud, other half the time you're just baking from the sun. It's so hot. So it's not a pleasant place to be, and I wouldn't advise anyone to take a vacation there. Of course, we were all defeated, really, when we heard the bad news about Pearl Harbor, and then we all decided what we had to do. So after a while, a group of us got together and decided that we had to enlist. And we went down to the Marine Corps, and we all enlisted. And at that time, we didn't even ask for how long we had to be in. We didn't sign up for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. We signed up for the duration. So no one knew how long it was going to last. So we just signed up and enlisted. And this was in 1942. Basic training was at Parris Island, South Carolina, which I think is the hellhole of the world, really. It is a terrible place to be. But they teach you one marvelous thing, and that's if you're going to go to war, you're taught how to kill. So they teach you all the techniques that you need to stay alive. And one thing they tell us, that before we die, if you're ever in combat, always bring back your material, then go back and die. But don't die with all your material. Boot camp, well, first of all in boot camp, we spent 6 or 8 weeks learning how to fight. We learned judo, and we learned bayonet fighting. We learned rifle, and then after our boot camp, we went for about a week training for just riflery. That's why all Marines are very good rifle people, because we get such good training for rifling. So after the week in boot camp, after our boot camp training and our rifle training, we went right away to San Diego, California. And in the morning, we helped load ship, and the afternoon, we learned how to walk down the cargo nets. And those days, we just didn't land right away with the front coming down out of a ship or anything. You had to come down the side of a ship, and that was with in these nets, which were called cargo nets. And the same thing that they put all the ammunition in big nets, and then raise the nets and put them in the hull of a ship, right? So that was it. And once we loaded ship, we were gone. We went right over to Pago, Samoa. And then from there, we went to other little islands. Because remember, Guadalcanal was about 14,000 ocean miles from the United States, any place in San Diego or any place in California. So they had to find places to leave ammunition, and that's what we did. And then from there, we went right to Guadalcanal. I was in a machine gun battalion, and our job was to protect Henderson Field. So we would be moving around on the island at different places at different times whenever there was some type of excursion or discussion or something of where they could possibly attack us. See, fortunately, the Japanese had to attack us because we were on Henderson Field, and that's what they needed, Henderson Field. whoever controlled Henderson Field would control all of the South Pacific on the way to Australia, New Zealand, and down lower. So it was so important to the Japanese to get Guadalcanal. And of course, our job was to defend ourselves. So that's what we did and we went from place to place, and we'd have to engage them coming out of the jungles. And of course, they were just as mean as we could be. So I think on the ship going over the first time, there were about 35 of us, and we got to know each other fairly well in a couple of weeks aboard ship. And then we were divided into groups, into squads, and then as squads we were sent to different places. And in combat, you start losing one, two of your friends, and then next time you may be going to the hospital, and you've lost your whole group of friends then, and maybe write to them or you try to contact with them and you can't. So as of today, there's nobody that I know that's still alive. The island, didn't have a name, but we were on it just to see if it would be an island that we could put supplies on. And at night, in the afternoon, we'd have to walk from the island up to another little bit of land across some coral reefs, and there we had a machine gun port, and that would tell us if any submarines would be arriving, or any other ships who would be arriving, any kind of battleships or anything. And so we were there for about a week, I think. And it was my turn and two other Marines, to walk across the coral reefs to this little bit of island, and we'd stay there all night. And this one night, of course, we saw something come up out of the water. We knew this was going to be a submarine. So yes, we became very frightened, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And when you don't know what's going to happen, you get scared and frightened. But what we did, we put our helmets back on, patted each other on top of the heads, and picked up our hand grenades, went down to our machine gun nest, and said, so long, probably we'll see you tomorrow. We don't know where, but we'll see you someplace. And then we were attacked by a submarine. So, well, the attack really didn't last that long, because we opened fire right away when you see them getting out of their hole and getting in their little ships to make their landing. I imagine they were there to examine if that was a good place for them to be. And then, fortunately, we had some artillery behind us, and the artillery from our main part of the island where we were, they were shooting over our heads, of course, and once they started to get close to the submarine, they took off at high port. On Guadalcanal, remember, it was just an island. There were no docks, no piers, and a ship would have to come in to the island as close as it could, drop anchor, and have to unload. Well, in those days, we had to use cargo nets all the time. So while the ship was there, they had to hurry and unload rapidly because of the Air Force coming from the Japan, and they would always strafe the ships. So we were unloading this cargo net, and remember in those days we had little Higgins boats. The fronts did not come down, and then everything had to go over the side of this little ship. It wasn't a ship, it was just a little boat. And we were loading it, and as the cargo net would come down, it would happen to open up. We'd have to take all the ammunition out, food, all sorts of supplies, and then take the cargo net up and have to bring back another cargo net from the whole of the ship, and we go through the same process. Well, this one time we were unloading, and our ship was under attack, where we were being strafed, and the cargo net, instead of coming always down and stopping right in the cargo net, it stopped at the top and opened up, and all the ammunition, the Bangalore torpedoes and the 30 millimeter bullets and everything started flying out of the cargo net. And so the only thing we could do was to dive overboard between our little Higgins boat and the ship that we were unloading. Well, unfortunately, my leg got caught in a pile of boxes, because some were banged up against my leg, and the others were on my toes and all the places I couldn't get out fast enough. And I twisted both of my legs very bad, but I didn't make it, obviously, since I'm here. And so we had to swim in the ocean for a while until we were rescued. And that was the most horrifying time. And I almost died at that particular time. We almost all drowned, but they finally saved us and brought us back. And so that was one of the ways that I was injured on Guadalcanal, right? Well, I think the biggest thing is that it made us all grow up. We became adults in a hurry. And then we thought what we could do after life. And we made lots of plans. Of course, lots of plans were never fulfilled because they got killed. But I think it gave us a broader aspect on looking at life and what was most important. And I think it helped us change what we could do if we could change the world. We were really on our own for one of the first times in history, I guess, that we felt that our nation was a nation itself that had to take care of itself. And we were part of that nation, right? So I think that gave us an honor, and it gave us a goal. And I think that's what we had in World War II. We had a goal, and that was victory, of course, and peace. And we learned love at the same time. I think the day that I mentioned, I saw Admiral Halsey come through the wards passing out medals for the fellows who had been in the Battle of Midway. That was a happy day for us. And this one bed had a fellow from the Navy, and he'd been burned very, very badly in the Battle of Midway. And he carried this picture with him all the time. And I said to him, I said, George, why are you carrying this picture all the time? And he said, I want all the doctors to see this picture. He said, because when they do the next grafting on my face, he said, I want them to look like this. And I said, well, why should they look like that? He said, that's my brother, and he was the best looking kid in the family. At nighttime, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, we'd go to the head, as we say in the Marine Corps, and we'd just sit around and start talking to groups, whoever came in to the toilet. And sometimes they'd come in to just cigarette. Sometimes they come in just to sit on the john because it's a different place, and other times they come in to wash their hands or take their teeth out and scrub them or something. But then we start talking like, where were you from? What did you do? And what happened to you? And different people would tell stories about their life. And this would be like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember this one fellow said, I will never go down to the coal mines again. And so we say, oh, tell us all about the coal mines. So here we're talking about coal mines rather than talking about what happened to him, say, in the war at the particular time. When we think of all the depression and discouragement and disillusionment that people had about what happens during wartime, and I guess what I should say is that, or what I would like to say is that I think there are a lot of people who should go into these VA hospitals and just see that everybody's blood is red, that if you have problems in a certain part of your stomach, it's no different than anybody else's, and that we're really all one, really. And if we could just get this through our skulls that nobody's better than anybody else, and God gave us all wonderful minds, and if we would just use them for love, we could have a terrific world. Well, I'm glad I didn't miss it, and fortunately I survived, so I can say anything I want about it, but I'm happy that I went through it for the country and for my family, because one of my great uncles fought in the Civil War, and my dad was in the Navy in World War I, and my 2 uncles were in World War I. So we're just holding up a family tradition, I suppose, that our family supports the USA. And we always did, and we always will, right?